Hello everybody, in today's video we're going to be going over briefly the snowstorm which is going on in the Ohio Valley and the Great Lakes, and eventually that's going to be moving into the interior northeast. But more generally, and for most of the video, we are going to be talking about that severe weather event for the mid-Atlantic and northeast coastal areas. So this includes anywhere from North Carolina to New England, where we do have a threat of severe storms. It's mainly going to be a line of storms that's going to be heading through central Pennsylvania, western Maryland, central Virginia, and then heading eastward from there into areas like Delaware, New Jersey, New York, and then eventually into New England as well. So let's get right into it here, and let's start off with your current National Weather Service page. We currently have some freeze warnings in effect for southern Washington and northern Oregon, as well as a huge area of additional freeze warnings in effect for parts of Michigan, Ohio, the entire state of Indiana, parts of Kentucky, the entire state of Illinois, southern Iowa, the entire state or most of the state of Missouri, northwestern Arkansas, much of Oklahoma, northern Texas, much of Kansas as well, and a little bit of Nebraska too. We also have some hard freeze warnings in effect for the panhandle of Texas and also the panhandle of Oklahoma. We have some hard freeze watches in effect for east central New Mexico. We have frost advisories along northern Texas, basically anywhere from Dallas southward. We have some frost advisories. We have freeze watches in effect in that light blue color to the south of the freeze warnings. That covers some parts of New Mexico, Texas, Arkansas, Missouri, Tennessee, North Carolina, Virginia, West Virginia, Kentucky, Ohio, and Pennsylvania as well. We have some winter weather advisories in effect already for parts of northern Ohio, northwesternmost Pennsylvania, and also into western New York, and these will most likely be extended up through the northern tier of the northeast. We also have some red flag warnings in effect for southern Colorado and southern Utah, as well as some hard freeze warnings in effect for northwestern Utah as well. Wind advisories are also scattered along the southern United States as well for some wind issues. Yesterday we had a high temperature in Death Valley, California, where they got to 98 degrees Fahrenheit. We had a low temperature tie between two areas, 6 miles southeast of Nahart, Montana, where they got to 8 degrees Fahrenheit, and 24 miles southeast of Pryor, Montana, where they also got to 8 degrees Fahrenheit. Mayaca City, Florida, they got to 2.21 inches of reported rainfall yesterday, and the highest snowfall report is 5 miles west of Red Lodge, Montana, where they got 17 inches of snowfall. Here's what the current snowfall analysis looks like so far. And by the way, this is not finished up if you live anywhere basically within this area or further to the east. So we're not done with anywhere that's from Missouri on eastward. It has wrapped up if you live in Kansas, Nebraska, and some of the areas further to the west. We did have a rather robust band of heavy snowfall that moved through northern Kansas, even a few in that yellow kind of area. These are where we have some areas that have 6+ inches of reported snowfall right through here, right along I-70, so that's where we're dealing with mainly the heaviest snowfall totals. And if we look at the current radar, by the way, it's already snowing in big cities like Detroit, Chicago, Springfield, Illinois, and then it's still raining in St. Louis. Might switch over to a little bit of snow on the back end. The snow is basically finishing off for Kansas City, and for areas in southern Missouri like Springfield, Missouri, they're also in some of that snowfall as well. But you can see that wide swath of snow that's light to moderate, even heavy at times, in some of these streaks of heavier snowfall that are scattered throughout parts of Missouri and Illinois. Those are the areas where we're dealing with snowfall rates of maybe up to half an inch to an inch per hour. And then along the extreme southern end of this precipitation, we do have a little bit of rainfall. This entire band is going to be heading to the south and to the east, and it's going to be converging over an area in the northeast and the Ohio Valley. And by the way, here's what the National Weather Service's forecast is for the future snowfall. So we are looking at maybe another couple inches back through northern Missouri, even back through central and northern Illinois, and also into Indiana and northern Ohio, where we actually have some amounts, maybe getting closer to 2 to 5 or even 6 inches of snowfall in some of these areas. Southwestern New York, maybe up to 6 or more inches of snowfall, and then also some of those heavier amounts back through northern New England and also into northern New York as well. Let's start talking about that severe weather. Now, you can see that for today, really nothing going on. We have a few scattered areas of general and even a marginal risk, but really nothing of significance. This is what we're going to be talking about mainly on the day 2 outlook for tomorrow. We do have a general thunderstorm risk in that light green shade, and then a marginal risk of severe weather. Wouldn't even be surprised if they put up a slight risk over a small area. Probably, if they were to put that, it would be somewhere over New Jersey and eastern Pennsylvania, kind of within this area right here where it looks to be the bullseye of this severe weather event. It's nothing that's going to be too crazy. It's going to be a line of storms with rather gusty winds, maybe even producing a little bit of hail due to the warm air convection that we are dealing with on the southern end of this storm. And you can see that we have marginal risk, which spans from North Carolina all the way up into parts of far western New England. Then for the day 3 outlook for Thursday, you can see that we have a few areas of scattered general thunderstorm risk, but it's really for Friday, where on the day 4 outlook they have a slight risk or a 15% chance of severe weather, and they don't do that too often. So when they do, you want to pay attention to it. They have that over some of the south central United States. And then if we also look at for Saturday on their day 5 outlook, you can see that we have a 15% chance or a slight risk of severe weather along parts of the Gulf Coast in the southeastern United States. So here's what the NAM 3KM model is showing, and we're going to play through this so you can see that we have some of that snow back through into western New York, northern Pennsylvania, and then up through northern New England as well. But what we're starting to see is this warm air out ahead of the system. We have temperatures that are going to be in the 60s and even low 70s through parts of the mid-Atlantic and the coastal Northeast on Wednesday. So this is by tomorrow, right around 11 in the morning Eastern. This would be, as we head this forward a little bit more, this is by 2 p.m., and we're dealing with somewhat of a line of storms starting to set up over eastern Pennsylvania, and it's really going to strengthen probably as it crosses over the Delaware River, and that's when I think it's going to start to really strengthen and start to impact in a lot more of a greater way some of these areas out ahead of this. So you can see that by right around 4 p.m. It is a fairly strong, robust band of storms. Probably as it crosses over to New York City and it starts to go over the water, it will most likely weaken. Usually water does weaken these thunderstorms quite a bit because of the elevation drop, and also just because the water temperatures are very cold at this time of year. We have fairly intense precipitation rates, and along with that, we're going to talk about this in a little bit, but we do have gusty winds, maybe gusting to 50 plus miles per hour at times. This would be by 8 o'clock. You can see that in eastern New England, we're dealing with more residual rain showers. Nothing that I would consider to be too severe or anything that might, probably at the most in eastern New England, we'll be dealing with maybe a few rumbles of thunder or maybe a few flashes of lightning, but I don't think it'll be anything of too much significance if you live within that area. Now, here's the CAPE. This is the convective available potential energy, and you can see that we have upwards of 500 to 1,000 CAPE all throughout parts of New Jersey, Pennsylvania, Maryland, Delaware, and eastern Virginia. And if we were to extend this on your screen a little further to the south, you would see that's also extending into North Carolina, northeastern North Carolina as well. And then for another frame, this is when it really hits its peak over some of these areas. You can see a little area of 1,000 plus CAPE, and you can even see that also for a little area in the Chesapeake Bay. So some of these areas have ample CAPE that's generating, which is, again, convective available potential energy. Basically just a way of measuring how much energy and instability is in the atmosphere at any one given point. And then also, even for southern New England, we do have a little bit of instability in CAPE, but it's only about 250 to 500 joules per kilogram, really not on the level that you would need to get a rather robust band of severe weather. Here is the significant tornado parameter, the STP. And this is the probability that you'll see a tornado. If you get above a 1, which is this first shade of blue right here, that's where you have the risk, or at least some sort of decent risk, of seeing a tornado. So we do have a few areas of that very dark blue popping up there, but I really don't think tornadoes is going to be something that you really want to worry about. You might see 1 or 2 spin-ups of EF0 or EF1, but I don't think it'll cause too many issues or too much damage. Nonetheless, I think the main threat is going to be those straight line wind damage, with this event. Here's the SCP, the supercell composite parameter, and you can also see that for this, once you get above about a 2.5 or a 3, and that's when you're getting into more serious numbers, and that's where supercells are possible to develop. And you can see that it's higher over northwestern New Jersey, northeastern Pennsylvania, and southwestern, or actually I would say southeastern New York, where we are dealing with those higher values. And this is where we could be dealing with more embedded hail throughout these areas, because we are dealing with maybe more of a supercell component instead of just a line of kind of a squall line of storms. Here's what the wind gusts look like at this particular time. So I just picked a random time. So this is by 5 p.m. Tomorrow, and we're dealing with a fairly strong line of storms. Again, out ahead of this, and actually right along this, you can see those gusts that are upwards of 50 miles per hour at times. And then you can see that in front of it, before the storm actually hits, you're dealing with gusts that are maybe reaching 30 miles per hour. So you're getting gusts 45 to 50 miles per hour for a short, intense period, and then it's going to pass quickly on. Here are the temperatures, and these are really, really impressive. Not this particular frame right here. You can see some temperatures that are above 60 degrees all throughout this area, and anywhere further south is where you have temperatures that are above 60, but especially on this frame right here. This is by 2 p.m. On Wednesday, and we are looking at temperatures that are above 70 degrees. Anywhere that's basically south of here is where you have temperatures that are above 70 degrees, very, very warm. And over this entire area right here, we have temperatures that are above 65 degrees. So warm enough temperatures definitely to support some storms. And also you have fairly warm temperatures over southern New England, where you're having temperatures that are getting up into the upper 50s or even the low 60s. By the way, if you are in the path of the winter storm aspect of this system and you have any questions, just leave a comment down below. Your questions in the comments, I usually answer them within about an hour or two of you posting them, and usually it's a lot shorter than that. And even if it's not related to the severe weather, I'll cover any of your questions, even if it has nothing to do with the system in general. So any of your weather questions or any comments or suggestions that you have, just leave them down below in the comments, and I will respond to you quickly. Here is the dew points, and you can see that these aren't too impressive. You have maybe 55 degree dew points, but you would want them to be up near 60. So this is where the storm is kind of lacking. You can see that 50 degree dew point area is all along the coastal northeast and coastal mid-Atlantic, but again, you would want that to be 5 to 10 degree dew points higher than that. But on the back end of this, by the way, we have very dry air, so you're going to have a huge depression in the dew point temperatures, where it's going to go from right around 45 to 55 degree dew points down to the upper teens and the low 20s. So very, very cold and dry air mass that's going to be right behind this system. The precipitable water, this is if you were to squeeze all the water out of the column of the atmosphere and just kind of squeeze it out, and this is how much rainfall or water you would actually have if you were to do so. So this is how much water is actually in the atmosphere at any one given time, and you can see we have maybe half an inch to an inch of precipitable water at the highest. So these values aren't at the highest, but for a event like this, it is definitely doable. You only really need to be above about 3/4 of an inch to an inch. So we're right around that threshold, and we have a few areas that are over an inch of precipitable water. Not the greatest, but it is possible to have some storms with that. And here is the rainfall. Most of this to the north is in the form of snowfall and wintry precipitation, but most of this to the south of there is actually in the form of some rainfall. So all of this pretty much to the south is in the form of rainfall, and you can see maybe some amounts that are approaching half an inch of rainfall, and this is all going to be over just one quick little storm that's going to be rolling through. So you get half an inch in maybe 15 minutes. That is fairly impressive. Even if it's just a quarter of an inch, that can cause some isolated flooding in some poorly drained areas. And then that is going to wrap it up for today's video. But definitely, if you are in the path of the storm, leave a comment down below if you want a forecast for this or any aspect of the weather in your area, and I'll again definitely respond quickly. But if you are in the path of this storm, you might just want to tie down any loose furniture that's going to be outside, just because you will have some rather gusty winds for a 5 to 15 minute period on Wednesday afternoon or tomorrow afternoon. So I would just definitely take a couple precautions in advance of this event. But this is definitely not going to be the most crazy event that you're going to see. And again, it's only late April, so the severe weather season in the Northeast especially still hasn't really kicked off until we get into May, when we really start to get into most of the severe weather. So that is going to wrap it up for today's video. Please consider liking the video, subscribing, and turning on notifications, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Goodbye.